If your internet connection feels slow, it's probably one of these 9 reasons. Everybody is capable of making any of these 9 mistakes, so be sure to stick to the end where I reveal the most pressing solutions that will have the biggest impact on your internet speed. But for now, let's begin by talking about network congestion. If you have 10 to 20 or more people on your network and you only have a 100 megabit per second link, you have network congestion. Network congestion is when too many people are using the network at a time, so the whole network slows down. This can really only be remedied by actually increasing your connectivity speed, so paying more money to your ISP, which is an uncomfortable pill to swallow, but fortunately most people aren't having over 10 to 20 people consistently enough to justify the need or want to purchase a more expensive internet provider plan. The next tip is that you may be sharing really large files over the internet. If that's the case, upgrading your connectivity again is actually going to make a significant impact. You'll notice it almost right away. If you go from 100 megabits per second to 1 gigabit per second, you're going to notice a 10 times difference in speed. So your 5-minute download time is going to go to 50 seconds. The next is that you're streaming and downloading a lot of data at once. Let's say you're downloading games constantly and things like that. And again, because you're downloading so much data at once, upgrading your connection speed is really the only option that you have. However, that's not the only situation or even the most effective situation for most people. These next 3 solutions are all free and don't actually require any amount of money going to your ISP. The first is that you just have a long round trip time to the server you're connected to. When you make a connection on the internet, your computer begins probing for bandwidth, seeing how much speed it can actually take up. Think of it like trucks on a highway, how much space on the road the truck can take up. When it's taken up too much space, it scales back and then starts to grow again. It can only do that effectively if the round trip time or the distance from you to the server is actually quite small. If your distance to the server is really large, you're going to experience connectivity issues. In this case, your only options are get closer to the server you're connected to or wait it out, because this is an issue with the server provider, not with your internet. The next issue is that you may be using a slower DNS server. When you join a network, a DNS server is provided to you. DNS stands for domain namespace. It allows you to convert a name like google.com into an IP address so that your computer can actually connect to it over the internet. If your DNS server is slow, every time you access a new website, it's going to take longer to even connect to that website, no matter how fast you could actually download the web page. Try using a faster DNS server and seeing if that fixes your problem. Another thing that might help is using a modern web browser. Modern web browsers like Firefox, Brave, and Chrome all support HTTP 2 and HTTP 3, both of which allow for pipelined connections, which means you can make multiple requests at once. If you can do that, you can maximize your throughput by sending multiple requests at once instead of sending them one at a time and waiting for responses. This will significantly increase your speed and you'll feel a difference almost immediately. These last 3 solutions, if you've tried everything else, then try one of these. Number 7 is you're using Wi-Fi 6 instead of Wi-Fi 7. The differences between Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 7 is that Wi-Fi 7 comes with an extra band of radio waves, the 6 gigahertz band. It's supposed to pass through walls better, and it's supposed to be a higher throughput than the 5 gigahertz or the 2.5 gigahertz bands. It also means that more devices can share those different bands, so everybody can use the network and it should be less congested. If you don't want to fork over the money for a Wi-Fi 7 access point or router though, you should check that there's no barriers in between you and the router. If there are walls, especially multiple walls, in between you and the router, you're gonna feel that. That 2.5 gigahertz signal passes through walls very easily, but the 5 gigahertz signal, which is the one with the higher throughput, actually struggles. So I recommend getting closer to your router, especially within the same room. And the last and the most important recommendation I can give to you is that you're not using Ethernet. If you're using a wireless signal, you're always going to be slower than somebody with an Ethernet cable. It doesn't matter how close you are to the router. It doesn't matter if you have Wi-Fi 7. None of that matters unless you're using an Ethernet cable. If you're not wired in, you're always going to be slower than the wired. Even if you use a USB to Ethernet adapter, that is always going to be faster because the maximum speed of USB is actually 6 gigabits per second, which is much faster than any internet plans I've seen recently. So comment down below which solution worked for you and stick around for next time for more tech advice.